So, a very good morning to one and all. I am Dr. B. Muhammad Ishaq. On behalf of Shantaram College of Pharmacy, extend you warm welcome for this third day of 3 days online webinar series on novel insights in pharmaceutical sciences during COVID-19 pandemic. Today we are fortunate enough that we have another great orator and speaker, Dr. Prakash Katkam sir, who is a very well-known speaker and a very well-renowned person in pharmaceutical sciences. With this short thing, let me tell you one more thing here that we have a feedback mechanism at the end of the session. We are going to run the session first, and after that we will be having the session will be open for your talk, for your queries if any. After that we will be having a feedback system. I request all the participants to kindly take part in the feedback so that we will be having an easy mechanism for the generation of your e-certificates. So those who haven't given your feedback yesterday or day before yesterday, so kindly give your feedback today so that your names will be included in the generation of e-certificates. So with this short introduction, and I once again welcome you all for this third day of 3 days online webinar series. I, on my behalf and from the behalf of the principal, Shantaram College of Pharmacy, Dr. Madhusudan Shetty sir, and from the entire family of Shantaram College of Pharmacy. Thank you so much for being with us. Now I'd like to request Dr. Dastagiri Reddy, HOD Pharmaceutics Department, Shantaram College of Pharmacy, kindly introduce the speaker to the audience. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Ishaq, sir. It is an honor for me to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Prakash Katkam, sir, to deliver on topic therapeutic repurposing strategies for COVID-19. We heartily welcome you, sir. Dr. Prakash Katkam, sir, has completed his diploma in pharmacy from State Board of Technical Education and Training, Andhra Pradesh, and secured 81 percentile. And he completed his B Pharmacy in Pharmaceutical Sciences from Andhra University and M.Pharm in Pharmaceutical Technology from Andhra University. And sir completed his PhD in Pharmacy from Berhampur University, Orissa, India. And sir served as a Fellow of Association of Biotechnology and Pharmacy in India, Accredited Technology Faculty, and International Accreditation Organization, USA. And sir is a life member of Indian Pharmaceutical Association, life member of Indian Hospital Pharmacist Association, and life member of Association of Biotechnology and Pharmacy. And sir is also a life member of Indian Pharmacy Graduates Association. He has a 20 years of professional experience as administrator, teacher, and researcher. Sir is also the first person to start the 3D printing drug delivery in India, and is also expertise in nanotechnology and biomaterials. Sir published 150 articles in indexed journals in and around India. Sir presented 15 research presentations. He granted 6 patents for his research contribution, and Sir also guided PhD. Among them, 9 students are awarded. Sir having a consultant and a collaborations with the School of Medical Science and Technology, IIT Kharagpur, and KN Bioscience, Bachpalli, Hyderabad. And Sir visited countries like Europe and Libya, and he also acted as a editor and reviewer for several indexed international journals. Presently, Sir is working as a professor and principal, SSS Indira College of Pharmacy, Nanded, Maharashtra. With this short introduction, I introduce our today's speaker, Dr. Prakash Katkam, sir, to deliver on topic therapeutic repurposing strategies for COVID-19. We heartily welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Dastagiri garu. Dr. Dastagiri garu, I am very much thankful to you for introducing me. I also thank the coordinator, Dr. Ishaq, and the Principal Madhusudan Shetty garu. Can I start now, sir?
Yes, you can start sharing the screen, sir.
Sharing the screen, okay. Is it visible, sir?
Yes, sir, it is visible. Yes, sir. Perfect.
Is it visible? Yeah. Yes. So today is the thank you for everyone who are online for listening to my lecture on therapeutic repurposing strategies for COVID-19. So today is a big word, repurposing strategies, one of the buzzword also. As you all know that the new drug discovery is a very long process, and it needs a lot of money and time and investment and for any new drug to succeed, it will take around 12 to 15 years. So in this light of problem, everyone is looking into repurposing strategies, because COVID-19 is a disease which is become a pandemic and killing everyone, most of the people, and become panic, economically degraded everyone. So in this situation, we need an emergency or immediate drugs to treat COVID-19. The objectives of this lecture is, you will understand the brief introduction about the COVID-19 and the drug discovery process in general, and the concept of drug repurposing, and the strategies involved and tools employed for drug repurposing purpose. And there is in silico repurposing tools and the strategies, how to do repurposing using in silico techniques. And there are some examples which I want to discuss after some time about some approved drugs and those which are in the pipeline. And use of artificial intelligence for drug repurposing is also will be touched upon, and the future perspective. We know that current global health distress is COVID-19, which is called coronavirus disease 19, and it is become a pandemic and is caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2. Currently, only supportive care is available. There is no straightaway molecule available to treat the SARS-CoV-2 directly. There is research is going on rapid development of new drug molecules, but it is very highly risky and very tedious, lengthy process. And to prepare a de novo drug means starting from the beginning, a new drug development will cost more than $1 billion. When you see a little history about origins of human coronaviruses, we have SARS-CoV virus, which is called severe acute respiratory syndrome virus, which is transferred by bats and civet cats, through civet cats to humans. And there is MERS virus, which is called Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, which is transferred by dromedary camels. The camels use it for the race purpose in the Arabian deserts. And now the latest one is SARS-CoV-2, which is likely to be transmitted through pangolins, which are eaten in certain provinces in the China. If you look at the picture, it explains to you about the coronavirus, how it enters the body, enters the cell. There are spike proteins on the virus, there are two proteins that are present on the skin, will influence the attachment and entry into the cells. Number one is angiotensin converting enzyme 2, which is in yellow color, which is present on the surface of the target cell. And once this TMP-RSS protein, which is called transmembrane serine protease, which cleaves in the second picture, it will cleave the ACE2 receptor, then allows the virus to enter the cell. If you see the replication process in the host cell, after it enters, it releases the viral genomic RNA, and with the help of host ribosomes, host contains the ribosome cells. So with the help of these cells, translation takes place. Then the virus RNA uses the host cell to create new virus RNA by assembling into viral particles. After replication, using RNA-dependent RNA polymerase enzyme, which is very essential for the replication purpose, this enzyme is present in the viral cell. Then, after multiplication or replication, with the help of Golgi bodies, the assembly takes place, and new virions are formed, which are called viral particles, which are after some time it will be released into the out of the cell to attack the another cells. There is another interesting protein. I said that RNA dependent. This picture is taken from the internet library, protein library, and this protein is very essential. This enzyme is very essential for the multiplication of the RNA in our cells. Here you can see the possible targets in coronavirus life cycle. And you see that after attachment, it enters the cell by endocytosis. After endocytosis process, the viral RNA is released. Then, which is called uncoating. Then RNA replication takes place with the help of RDRP. And further, it will go to the translation state where endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi will help in the formation of the coating around the RNA. And after assembly, it will go into the virion release. So here you can, in the red letters, you can see the target proteins or target sites where we can use the drugs. So the first one, if you see the ACE2 here, RH recombinant human ACE2 is a protein that can be used to competitively bind with ACE2 and inhibit the fusion of the SARS-CoV virus protein, spike protein onto the cells. And there is another one, CAMSTAT and NEFMSTAT, which will inhibit the TMBRSS transmembrane protease serine 2 enzyme. Thereby, it will prevent the entry. If you see the chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine, it will act in between the during the uncoating process. It will prevent the uncoating. Thereby, it will inhibit the further process inside the cell. If you see the remdesivir and favipiravir, this RDRP enzyme, it will inhibit the RDRP enzyme, these drugs, so that it will replication of RNA will be stopped. There are some other sites we are still being explored, which is assembly part and virion release. These are the various some of the approaches where we can go for repurposing of the drugs, or not only repurposing, identifying the new molecules as well. As we know, the conventional drug development, in general, what we do, we develop a drug for a selective target or disease. So it is an old trend, but now, we are looking for multiple targets using the new technologies like high throughput screening and so on. This slide shows you about the brief explanation about the drug discovery process. In the beginning, millions screened by high throughput screening, which I'll let you know in the next slides. So in that, we find out the IC50 determination and hit tractability assessment. That means how far a drug can identify or conform with the target molecules. Then that will lead to a hit leads. Hit leads means there's possible molecules that can interact with the target proteins. Here, target protein means any protein or enzyme of a viral moiety, whereas a ligand means a drug, a small molecule or a protein drug. So in this process, we do in vitro tests and tier 1 ADME tests we can do in this second step. Then goes to the third step, that is lead optimization, where we'll find the dozens of compounds, and these compounds we can go for in this stage we will test in vitro in vivo efficacy assess and further steps in ADME physical chemistry assess. Then finally, we will come out with 1 to 3 compounds where we'll do second modeling and non-GLP toxicology. Then goes to the preclinical development. This preclinical development will go to GLP toxicology. Here we'll do, as per good laboratory practices, we'll do all the toxicology studies on animals, 1 or more animals. do it, and in that we'll also test for genetic toxicology, safety, in vivo toxicology, at least in 2 species, and manufacturing will start at this part. Then we'll
Sir,
go
excuse me, sir.
for filing. Yeah.
If you don't mind, can you please be a bit louder, sir? Number of participants are asking to be. They are getting a low voice.
Oh, I'm very sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it is okay, sir. It is perfect.
Can you hear me now? I thought
It is okay.
it's not a classroom, so I shouldn't talk very loudly. So anyway, now I hope you are hearing much better.
Yes, sir. It is much better.
Thank you, Ishaq.
Thank you, sir. Sorry to disturb you, sir.
In the phase 1 clinical trials, we will test it on the normal human healthy volunteers, very limited numbers. We'll test for the safety part. In phase 2, we also look for the efficacy as well as safety, which is called proof of principle. Once you through the phase 2 clinical trials, you can enter into phase 3 clinical trials, which is definitive clinical proof of principle. Most of this part is known to so many people, pharma friends, about this process. The steps that are involved in the early drug discovery is also this picture shows a brief about how this drug discovery process takes place in the beginning. So we identify the target, we identify for validation how it could be done, a drug target ligand, and the target drug ability means ability of a molecule, whether it is useful or not, whether it could be useful as a drug or not. This can be done by using two processes. One is high throughput screening, another one is virtual screening. In the high throughput screening, we test certain things like biochemical tests and cell-based assays on various molecules like diversity scaffolds and focal scaffolds. Scaffolds means core structure, like sulfonamide group. Sulfonamide group is a scaffold on which we put so many manipulations by changing the R's and all, so that it could be used in the market. And we have certain bioactive compounds, natural products, and peptides. So using these compounds, we do certain bioassay tests and through high throughput sync, and we'll arrive at a conclusion for whether it is useful or not. In virtual screening mode, we do homology model docking. In homology model docking, we check for fixing of a drug molecule in silico models using computer modeling software. Then we collect the compounds. We don't actually test the compounds in the laboratory, but we collect the library of the compounds from the drug bank. For example, there's a website called Drug Bank. You can collect all the structures in 3D models, everything from the virtual compound structure database. And we do the screening and we do the docking studies, and we'll come out with certain possible molecules, promising druggable molecules. And that will result in the quantitative high throughput screening, and further it will lead to single concentration screen. That means a single concentration will be selected, how it can be evaluated. Then we use combination of drugs as well, how it will work. And here you can see the word drug repurposing. Drug repurposing means if it is not a new drug, it can be repurposed for another drug. If it is a new drug, it could be used as a new drug in this case. And they also check for target drug design, not only for one disease. We also look for another target. For example, in the coronavirus, if you see, there are so many proteins. You can see 5-6 targets. So it is called multi-target. The drug can be targeted for 1 or 2 or more. Then what is drug repurposing? So drug repurposing is just nothing but using or employing an existing drug for new therapeutic purpose or for new target. So reusing or repurposing or redirecting a drug, an existing drug, for another use is called drug repurposing. There are so many other similar words like reprofiling, repositioning, reusing, rediscovering, and so on for new diseases. But there is a difference between repositioning and repurposing. Repositioning is only done by the pharma companies for a molecule for a category of molecule. For example, an anti-cancer drug is repositioned for another cancer type. That means within the same pharmacological purview, they will reposition it. Whereas repurposing means entirely different application will be taking place. For example, if you take an anti-malarial drug like hydroxychloroquine, now it's being used for COVID-19. So the anti-malarial drug is different, its purpose is different, but we are using it to treat COVID disease. So this is called repurposing. If you see the global market, 30% of the repurposed drugs now account for 25% of the global pharmaceutical industry. You see the huge advantage of repurposing the drugs. So all these 30% of the market now is occupied by repurposed drugs. And now if you see approval drugs, there is a chance that at least 33% of the repurposed drugs will reach from phase 1 to market approval. That means there is more chances because these drugs are already established in the market. The proposed repurposing drugs are already established in the market. We know the profile, entire thing. We are starting from the preclinical to clinical, and we know pros and cons about the drug. So there are more chances that it will be through screening process of the FDA or any regulatory bodies. And repurposing is usually helpful and mostly helpful, I can say, because orphan diseases like spina bifida and muscular dystrophy, where what is orphan disease? Orphan disease is a disease where in the entire world only less than 2 lakh people are being affected. That means a rare disease. So for that rare disease, designing a new drug means investing a lot of money and getting very less revenues for pharma companies. Commercially, it is not at all viable. And there are some other examples are being given recently that regarding orphan diseases. The diseases which are present in developing countries or underdeveloped countries like malaria and all, some diseases, they are not present in the developed countries. So these diseases also being called as orphan diseases. If you can observe for the last 15-20 years, you will hardly find one molecule for TB. But you can see, because TB is a very serious disease in India, but it's not at all serious in Western countries. So it is very difficult to invest. Even if you invest, you don't get the revenue. That's why the pharma companies, big pharma companies, they never invest on the rare diseases. So will help us to find new applications for the existing molecules for the orphan diseases. So hence we have to go for repurposing. I request all the friends of pharmacy people, please focus on repurposing of drugs for orphan diseases as well. This is a very lucrative and very promising area. So repurposing is just nothing but finding new indication, as I said in the previous stage. And if you find the old examples for the drugs which are being repurposed so far, these are based on serendipity. Serendipity means we do for something and we come out with a very useful unknown outcome. As is found, the best example is sildenafil. In the phase 2 clinical trials, people were using sildenafil for antihypertensive therapy, and they found that there is some erectile function is being activated. So it was a side effect or adverse effect, or it's not adverse effect, we could say side effect. So this has been taken as advantage, and they now sildenafil is purely indicated for erectile dysfunction activity since 1998. From 1998 till now, it minted more than $35 billion market. So this is the advantage. Sometimes it's called serendipity. So the repurposing of sildenafil created 35 billion market. It's amazing. If you go to aspirin, it's already obsolete drug as NSAID, but it's repurposed as antiplatelet drug. And recently, atorvastatin, it's still under investigation. Atorvastatin is a lipid lowering agent, but it's very well be repurposed for bone regeneration. Actually, we are working on this project, and it has been showing promising results. Ketamine is another drug which is it's being used as anesthetic. Now it's being used as pain and resistant depression relief. Colchicine is a very old 1890s drug. It was used in the gout. Now it's being used in the cardiovascular use. Artemisinin is an anti-malarial drug. Now it's being used for anti-cancer. Minoxidil is another example, an antihypertensive. Now it's being used as local hair growth ingredient agent. So these are of repurposing our drugs and their markets. Many of you know what is the market of all these drugs. What are the advantages of repurposing? Already these drugs are in the clinical use, so we know that it is safe. We don't need to hesitate to reuse it for another disease. The advantage is another advantage is a shorter development time, because we can directly start from phase 2. So we can avoid preclinical screening and other earlier high throughput screening. All the stuff we can avoid, directly go into phase 1, phase 2. Then I think you can save up to 40% of the expenditure on drug development. And there is a regulatory support. FDAs and European agencies, they will support repurposing of drugs. They will. Next slide, I will explain about the regulatory support. And there is a possible market exclusivity in case of drugs obtaining market authorization. You will get market exclusive support from the regulatory authorities like US FDA. You can sell it in the market for several years according to the regulations. And there is higher probability for technical and commercial success. FDA Route 505(b)(2), it says that if any drug which is having the data like in vitro data, in vivo data, and the chemical optimization, toxicology, and all, for any repurposed drug, that can be directly applied for another application under 505(b)(2) route. So you can avoid a lot of expenditure. You can save the money by applying in this way, how the regulatory people will accept it. So if you see the examples below, at least 50% of the NDA approvals, new drug approvals from 2013 to 18 were applied through 505(b)(2) route. So I can say like this, an anti-malarial drug, hydroxychloroquine, now being approved by NDA, that means what is the advantage here? The advantage is that the investment has reduced, and you will have exclusive rights to sell it for anti-coronavirus disease. And usually the approval time for repurposed drug is only 3 to 12 years, whereas for new drugs it is 10 to 17 years. This is the advantage. There are few disadvantages. The first disadvantage is the drug which is being used for another disease, the dose may not be the same for the new disease. So the dose is a bit higher, that will create a lot of problem. If you see the recent news in America, they took hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin. They invested millions of rupees to purchase it from India, and now after they tried to use it on COVID patients, they found that it's not at all useful. It created a lot of cardiac toxicity. Even the eyes are affected. So they discontinued the use of hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin combination now. So this is a disadvantage. And physicians, they have a certain mindset. They cannot be convinced with the new clinical value of the older drug. And in business, the stakeholders or the board members of a company may not accept the repurposing of a old, failed, or any drug that is already there. And the complicated IP, intellectual property, and exclusivity results in patent infringement. That means the old patent may contain all the details, even including a new disease. For example, hydroxychloroquine patent, if you see, if it says that it can be used to kill the virus as well, then in that case you cannot copy the molecule and apply for as NDA. So IP protection is very important, and also if the data is already available in the publication, suppose every data is available in the publication, someone has done, for example, you have done some research on hydroxychloroquine against coronavirus, and you have published a paper, you have not applied for any patent. In that case, I cannot manufacture. I can manufacture, but I cannot have patent rights on that particular hydroxychloroquine molecule for coronavirus disease. So this is how there are some disadvantages, but you can sell it as a generic drug. So how the drug repurposing works? So drug repurposing plus we have computational methods. Computational methods means using computers, and in silico methods we call it as, this is called as in silico repurposing. We have bioinformatic tools such as ligand based tools and structure based tools. The structure based virtual screening and molecular dynamic simulation. Structure based virtual screening means using docking studies, where you can see the interaction between the target protein. Target protein means, like for example, a protein of coronavirus, and the ligand. Ligand means any molecule, small molecule or big molecule or protein molecule, such as hydroxychloroquine. You can see the interaction studies, how they is it conforming structures. Both the structures are conforming onto each other. Is studied by structure-based virtual screening. And molecular dynamic simulations will help us to study the molecular interactions between these molecular level interactions between the ligand and the target proteins, and find effective compounds from the existing drugs. And as you know that it is relatively very cheap process compared to the regular process of drug development. This structure-based drug discovery, recently past 10-15 years, they have scientists have prepared the 3D pictures, structures of all the proteins, millions of proteins, such as enzymes and target proteins, and it is also available in the library. In the internet, it's free to access, using NMR and X-ray crystallography studies. And these structures are used to link with the proposed drug molecules or ligand, we can say, and further it will lead to identification and optimization. This already I explained in the previous slides. So these are the method. The following methods are used to do the SBDD studies. One is molecular docking, scoring, and molecular dynamic simulation studies. This picture shows you a protein data bank from where I have downloaded the protein of named 6VXX, the structure of SARS-CoV spike glycoprotein. This protein is essentially important for the entry of the virus into the cells, and where we can target this protein for using antibodies. So just I wanted to show you this picture, how the protein looks like a 3D picture. It has all we can download directly from PDB, Protein Data Bank, and use it for your studies. There are other 3D QSR Further, after molecular dynamic stimulation and structure-based virtual screening, we do 3D QSAR studies, and we will identify the compounds. The final compounds that are identified can be directly sent to phase 2 clinical trials. That means what I'm saying you here is of the after leading finally into phase 2 clinical trials just by in silico screening approach or structure-based drug discovery approach. Briefly, steps are involved. The first step is find the binding affinity between the target protein and the information, whether it is rigid or flexible docking, and also to
Hello, sir. Eric, there is a small technical difficulty with the speaker, it seems. Please be with us. I will be contacting with the speaker and I will be letting him in once.
Ishaq Garu, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Is there any problem?
Yes, sir. Your share screen has stopped now. Can you once again share the screen, please?
No, just before that it was okay.
Voice was not clear, sir. Yeah, now it's okay, sir. Sir, if you don't mind, can you please be a bit louder, sir?
Sorry for that. And scoring function is used to rank the drugs testing on the molecular studies software such as drug score and X score, Lig score, like that. And finally, we do molecular dynamic simulation studies where we do the simulation studies about the molecule at molecular level, how a drug will interact with the protein molecule can be known very well by molecular dynamic simulation. So using GROMACS is used to do the molecular docking simulations. This is a summary of the molecular docking for repurposing. So first step is that ligand target binding rationalization, where we do the identification of the structural determinants that are necessary for ligand receptor binding. Then we do virtual screening, where we use the software to identify the compounds for targets and their optimization. And we do target fishing or profiling. That means we identify the exact location of the target molecules in the target where we can fix a particular drug onto particular target. Then we have prediction of adverse drug reactions, ADRs. We can do it next step. And then polypharmacology. Polypharmacology means within, as I said, in the coronavirus, we have 6 to 7 target sites. So a drug can act at 1 or 2 locations or more locations. In that case, we call it as polypharmacology. And optimization and identification and optimization of the particular site where inside the or outside the virus it can be acted. And then finally we do repurposing. That means we say that existingly presently it was for this purpose, now we want to use for another purpose. So this is a brief about molecular docking studies for drug repurposing. As I said, QSR is another next step of drug docking studies. It's a statistical approach that relates the structure of the ligand, how it influences the pharmacological activity that can be assessed by the software, QSR software. We have a 3D QSR, 1D QSR versions available, where it will look for log P values, that is lipophilicity, molecular weight, number of rotatable bonds, etc. on the ligands, and how they will influence, like what we do in the structure or in our synthetic medicinal chemistry. This is a summary of in silico repurposing, because those who could not hear earlier can now see here properly. In this in silico repurposing, we collect the protein, we collect the compounds, download the compounds or proteins from the protein data bank. It's not compound, it's target proteins. We can see the crystallographic protein structure, 3D structure of the target, and we have the drugs or ligands. We can collect it from drug bank. Example, drug bank website. You can collect all the 3D structures of the approved drugs, and then we do molecular docking using AutoDock, for example. Then we do the inspection part, how a molecule can properly dock onto the or conform onto the protein, and then we will identify the potential compounds. Then we do the molecular dynamic simulation studies using GROMACS software. Then finally we do analysis using QSR and machine learning software. And finally we hit compounds. Hit compounds are those compounds which are proved to have possible pharmacological activity on a particular protein. If you see some of the examples of drugs that are under process, are already done the work and are being used for repurposing drugs for COVID-19. So all the existing broad spectrum antiviral drugs are the best candidates to choose for COVID-19. Those which are being under process from phase 2 trials to phase 4 at this moment. If you see in one of the example is imifinavir, actually is a membrane fusion inhibitor which can target the viral entry of the coronavirus. Lopinavir, ritonavir is also a combination. It was earlier used in influenza and HIV. Now it can be targeted for viral protease. There is another drug in the phase 3, remdesivir, a viral RDRP inhibitor, which is this enzyme is, as I said, is very necessary for transcription, is under investigation. Then another drug, either hydroxychloroquine or chloroquine, is an anti-malarial drug. Now this is being used in 2 stages. One is at the entry stage on the cell, and inside the cell, it also can block the autophagosome lysosome fusion, where the RNA molecule will interact. It has been shown that remdesivir is synergistic with hydroxychloroquine. So now people are trying to use both drugs. Favipiravir is another drug. Purely, it was earlier used for in the pneumonia. Now it's being for coronavirus associated pneumonia. Ribavirin is a nucleic acid analog, now showing against SARS-CoV-2. Recombinant human AC2, which is also called APN01, is now used in the treatment of lung injury and pulmonary arterial hypertension due to coronavirus. And TMPRSS, transmembrane serine protease inhibitors, chemostat and nefamostat, used for the entry part in the virus on the cells. Azithromycin blocks autophagosome clearance in human cells. Earlier it was used for Zika virus and influenza viruses in vitro. This is a landscape, very beautiful landscape given by InVivoGen, repurposing of approved drugs for targeting SARS-CoV-2. So far, all the previous slides, what I explained you about the drug targets and the drugs, how they act, where they act, everything is given in this picture. Actually, you can download this from the, all the slides are available. My presentation is also available. You can download it. So here you can see the first one, that viral attachment. You can see AC2 part here. You can see my icon moving here around this. So membrane fusion, you can prevent the membrane fusion by using chloroquine and nifurmostat and camostat, which will inhibit the TMPRSS enzyme. And next step is it will go to endosomal acidification. That means endosome is formed. The endosome is converted into separation of the RNA from the endosome. So that can be prevented by chloroquine hydrochloride, hydroxychloroquine as well here. Then it will, if you see the next step, the RNA, RNA is broken down into proteins. 3 chymotrypsin, you can see here 3CL-Pro. That means 3 chymotrypsin-like proteins and cysteine-like proteins. Then we have papain-like proteins, protease. These enzymes are necessary for the proteolysis and further synthesis of the or replication of the RNA. So at this stage, 3CLP protein can be prevented by lopinavir, ritonavir, and papain-like protein can be papain-like protease can be stopped by disulfiram. So when you go back to the top in the center, we see RDRP. So RDRP can be, this enzyme can be prevented by remdesivir and favipiravir. This RDRP is used for replication purpose. And then next step, we don't have any drugs over here. At present, we don't have any drugs. There are so many other steps are involved. And where we have RNA replication, after RNA replication, the packaging or covering of the individual RNA can be done from the Golgi bodies of the cell, host cell. So at this step we can find out some new molecules in the future. And here, after before releasing of the newly formed viral protein, virion, we call it as virion, we have interferon B that can be used. So you know that Cuba has developed this interferon B, and it is supplying to various countries to treat this at this particular point. The drug is earlier it was used for several other infections. Now it's being repurposed for interferon B is now repurposed for COVID to attack at this particular stage. And if you see some other drugs like at the right side, sarilumab and tocilizumab, interleukin, after infection, you will find a lot of inflammation that can be prevented, or sorry, that can be treated with these 2 drugs at the host in cytokine responses. So this is how you can see this landscape in very detail, giving very details about various targets and various drugs. Everything is given in a detailed manner in a summary. I don't want to read these table because these are so many. There are so many examples of repurposed drug under study. Candidate on the left side, and the second column shows you that how it acts and for which indication it was used earlier. Third column shows you that it is what stage of development, whether it is clinical trial or not. Then the fourth one is a company which is hosting the project. So you can just see it in the website also. So many websites, this information is available. Now coming to the last part of the this particular webinar, artificial intelligence for drug repurposing. So what is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is just nothing but training a computer on the existing knowledge and helping it to develop its intelligence. And if you give a question, it will think and tell you the answer. It is something in a simpler way, simplest way, and it involves machine learning and deep learning. These are the terms that are used in artificial intelligence. And we have another terminology called artificial neural networks. Artificial neural networks, using networking software, you can collaborate with all the databases, and you can churn the database and drive a particular decision or prediction. So proprietary algorithms. Algorithms is just nothing but it's a computer plan, step-by-step process. How you have to decide or come to a decision is called algorithm. Using algorithm, we can support AI-driven drug development. So in the AI-driven drug development, we can do 3D structure prediction of a target protein or a protein, for example, on the virus, and the drug protein interactions, drug ligand protein interactions, we can say. So first thing is we can predict the structure, and second thing is we can do drug protein interactions. That is docking studies, for example. We can use this artificial intelligence to identify which conformation is the best suited, or which drug molecule is best suited for a particular protein target. So if you see the traditional high throughput screening, if you consider 1 million compounds are being screened, each compound may cost you around $50 to $100. That will lead to several $1 million, and at least several years to identify one compound, lead compound. Whereas by contrast, using artificial intelligence from virtual compound library, you can identify several billion molecules. You can screen several billion molecules within few days, and it takes only 1 year or less than 1 year to find the lead compound. That is the advantage of artificial intelligence. If you see a package developed by DTNet, so this will have a network connecting drugs, targets, and diseases. So suppose you have a drug bank, we have target bank like PDB, and we have disease and related information in the internet. So mixing all these three and churning into the databases and identifying a lead compound by deep learning process. So deep learning is a machine learning process where it will read all these drugs, targets, and diseases, and it will do conformational studies like docking studies and all, and it will say that okay, this is the best compound for this particular drug target. Then there is another company, HealX, which is working on gene mapping and repurposing for rare diseases, and SOM Biotech and Farnext is working on CNS indication drugs, and Algernon is working on inflammation and fibrosis, and there is Novartis and Big Pharma. They are working on monoclonal antibodies used for leukemia, and in India, GVK Bio is working on CRO services for artificial intelligence. You can go to this website, which will show you drug repurposing database. It has all it's an open access database, Excelra. It's an open access database. You can find all the drugs that can be used for repurposing under phase 2 and phase 3 studies, and which are under preclinical or experimental stage also. So anyone is interested to see what are the drugs that can be repurposed, you can find it in this database, which is in future. It is expected that in BSSS earlier we found that broad spectrum antiviral drugs have disadvantage of specificity. So you have to identify a specificity or a specific target for a particular drug, so you can minimize the adverse effects or you can also minimize the possible drug dependence. Then we have the design like docking studies. Docking studies we can do repurposing, and this problem can be solved by, there are more and more, recently it has already been solved. I would like to say this. Recently, if you see in the protein data bank, you have all glycoproteins and other enzymes. All these are available in the 3D structure. So we can do very good structure based design interaction studies. And I say that machine learning, like artificial intelligence, can be implemented to support or expedite drug discovery in a faster manner. And regulatory authorities like governments and Foods and Drugs Administration, USA, they have to support for protection or to make the people file, or companies to file NDAs on repurposed drugs, and helping them to sell the drugs in the market for a limited period of time at least will be much of helpful, I think. Thank you, my dear friends, for your attention. This is the share link. You can download it now from the internet. Slide share link for the PPT presentation. This is our publication. Recently, we published about update on therapeutic repurposing our strategies for COVID-19 in this journal. Hello.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a very informative session. This is a need of the hour, as per my view. It was a very wonderful session, and I can see the number of messages in the form of a chat. So many audience and so many participants are expressing their support, and as well as so many queries have been asked already. Number of people has commenting that it was a very good session, very informative. I can see all these chats. Unfortunately, I have disabled the chat for you in order to avoid the disturbance in between the session.
Yes.
It was a very good session, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sparing your valuable time with us.
Yeah.
Even it is a Sunday. In fact, every day is Sunday in these recent days. Thank you so much for spending your time, sir.
Nowadays, it is yesterday, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, not the days. What do you say?
Yes, sir.
We forgot the days. We forgot
yes, sir,
the days. We would say that.
Absolutely, sir.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, dear audience. And the session is open for the talk now. If you want to ask anything to the sir, then you can raise your hands in the Zoom so that I can able to unmute your mics. Yeah, sir, am I allowed to take the questions, sir?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, let us take the question from Dr. Josna Devi, madam.
Yes, madam. Hello.
Madam. Yes, madam. You are ready to speak.
Yes, sir. It was a very nice information provided by Prakash, sir. Sir, I'm having a very simple question, because this is the orphan disease recently seen by, in so many number of people, that is spina bifida. Is there any specific drug that is repurposed for effectively on the spina bifida, sir?
I don't have any information, madam, because there are a few cases which I personally see in some hospital when I visited the hospital, that case, but there is no direct drug that will act on spina bifida. Only it is palliative therapy or supportive therapy is only available for that. There is no direct drug is available, madam, because it's a genetic disorder, and to treat the genetic disorder, different approach has to be done, I think so. It's not, there is no drug available at this moment.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir.
Welcome, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's.
Yes, sir.
Still anybody, sir? If anybody wants to ask any questions, you can kindly raise your hands. Sir, I have one more question from my side. Sir,
Yes, yes,
sir,
please.
is AC2 is a receptor where the coronavirus is going to bind on? Is this the receptor where the means what to say this coronavirus enters into the cell, sir?
Yeah. See, there are two receptors. One S2 receptor actually is an enzyme
Yes.
that is present on the cells. It's not a receptor, but the receptors are present on the spike protein.
Okay, sir.
So this spike protein will search for the enzyme AS2, and
Okay, sir.
when it finds the AS2, it will try to attach to the AS2. That this transmembrane serine protease will also help to attachment. One is identification, second one is attachment. First step is AS2. AS2 will help you to identify the protein on the, or in a reverse way we can say, the coronavirus will try to look for a sensor where it will try to go there. So that sensor is AS2. Once it reaches AS2, AS2 will facilitate this transmembrane serine protease. We call it as TMPRSS. So this TMPRSS will help in the fusion. Fusion means the coronavirus will try to enter into the cell. So that will be facilitated. So as you said, it is not exactly receptor. It is a enzyme.
We have number of AC2 blockers, sir. Can't we repurpose
Sir,
those
can you
drugs for
hear
that?
me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's
Yes.
audible, sir.
Please.
We have a number of AC2 blockers drugs also, sir. Can't we repurpose the same drugs for the treating COVID-19?
Unfortunately, many drugs are being tried. ACE2 inhibitors, they have been tried to competitively bind with ACE2, so the coronavirus to see the ACE2. But unfortunately, the problem is ACE2 inhibitors will have other side effects. For example, if it is given to a normal patient, who is not having hypertension, it will lead to hypotension. So that will create side effects. That's disadvantage. What we discussed earlier, the disadvantages of repurposing is we have to look into the adverse effect. If that can be resolved, we can definitely use ACE2 inhibitors. For example, the patient is having hypertension already he is using some ACE2 inhibitors, or he's using calcium channel blockers. You can redirect to ACE2 inhibitors or shift to ACE2 inhibitors for some time until the coronavirus is resolved.
Thank you, sir. Now, let me take the question from Tisha Khan. Hello. Yes.
Hello.
You can. Yes, madam. You can speak now.
Hello, very good afternoon, sir. Sir, this is Tehseen Khan. Yes, very good afternoon, sir. It's a very nice presentation and very informative, firstly. And I have a question regarding that as this coronavirus is affecting the people of a very much age above 60 and to the children. But nowadays, I have studied some articles which are showing a good recovery in children. So, what is the reason that children are very much either also they are very prone to this and they are getting a very good recovery? So, is there any immunity based decisions are taking on this regard?
Yes, basically children under I can't say, but from the age of 6 and above, they have very high immunity power. Less than 6 years, they have lesser immunity power. But in general, when compared to the aged group, they have comorbidities. The problem is that any healthy person will have sufficient strength to prevent, to attack or to face the attack of COVID virus. But the people with comorbidities have the problem. Even the children who are facing this, the deaths in children, what you see in the statistics, it shows that they have comorbidities. Comorbidities means they have another disease, which will, like pneumonia, for example. Many children have pneumonia in where they are staying in the seashore cities like Mumbai and all. So these people are having problem of attacking. But in general, children cannot be attacked that much because of their more immunity power. And for women, we see that it's an extra point I want to add. Women also have some resistance for COVID because ACE2 when compared to men on their cells, expressing ACE2 cells are lesser in women compared to men, it seems. Yeah.
Thank you,
Am
sir.
I able to answer you, Rasin?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, let's take one more. Yes, sir. Answer is clear, sir. It seems. Let's take another question from Sonlimar.
Yes.
Hello,
Thank you very much.
sir. Please.
Are you hear my sounds?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, sir. You are clear now. You are clear,
Okay,
sir.
baik. Okay.
Yes.
Nice your presentation, Dr. Prakas.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, good afternoon, all participants. Good afternoon, Indonesia now.
Thank
Hello?
you, Sonlimar.
Okay. The topic
sir.
is depend on COVID-19 and repurposing and drug discovery and receptor ACE2. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, how about the vitamin C? Because the vitamin C is already discussed all by the scientists that can be to protect or to treat or to boost. So in our discuss today, what your comment about the vitamin C, Dr. Prakas? Your time.
Can you stop the video, please, Mr. Sonlimar? Can you please stop the video? Video, please.
Sorry.
I am not audible. Can you stop the video?
I am not looking at video. Sorry. Video,
No.
Video,
please
sorry.
stop your video.
Okay. Sorry. Stop video. Okay, like that.
You want to say that how vitamin C is acting? You want to ask
Okay.
that how vitamin C is acting?
Yes, sir. What is the role of vitamin C in combating this COVID-19? What exactly he is asking, sir?
Actually, there
Yeah, the vitamin C, it's
is no established proof of concept how vitamin C is acting against COVID-19. But in general, any antioxidant or like polyphenols or any even I was suggesting to lemon and kamirchi and lasun, which are very much have antioxidant properties. They are proved earlier to boost the immunity, but at present there is no direct relation of any of this having direct action on COVID-19. They are not very. They are expected to. I'm saying they are expected to improve the immunity, but then still they are never proved to improve the immunity. It's only some studies are still going on, and it has yet to be proved. And what the question regarding question that has been asked by him is that whether vitamin C, I don't know, but it has still to be explored. There is no proof. But in general, a general statement is that any antioxidant is a very good immune booster in general.
Thank you, sir. Let's have a question from Geeta Madhuri. Yes, madam. Are you able to hear me, madam? Geeta Madhuri, madam. Geeta Monica. Hello. She left. Geeta Monica, madam, are you there? Okay, sir. Let's take a question from Meghna.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon,
Hello.
sir.
Yes, madam. Madam, you can
Hello.
speak now, madam. Yes, madam. We are audible.
You told about repurposing drugs, no, sir.
Yes.
Then will they come under the NDA or ANDA, sir?
It will come under NDA because you are using this drug for entirely for another purpose. So obviously it will come for NDA. That's why I was telling you about the IP, intellectual property part. There are two things. One is advantage, another one is disadvantage with respect to patenting or approval, NDA approval. So if the drug is, for example, as I said, the drug is already used. For example, hydroxychloroquine is already established for malaria. Now we are using it, we want to use it for coronavirus, to treat the coronavirus, because we are using for entirely a different pharmacological category. It will come under NDA. But we can use the data of preclinical and clinical studies while filing NDA. That is advantage. The cost is reduced. No, we don't need to do all the screening and all stuff, preclinical studies and clinical studies. Up until phase 1, so much expenditure is there. That can be prevented. As well as NDA, you can have exclusive rights for sale in that particular market. For example, USA. Is that clear, madam?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's clear, sir. Let's take the question from Gopal Satish Kumar, sir.
Yeah.
Shivashankar Reddy, sir, can you kindly unmute him, sir? Gopal Satish Kumar. Sir, are you there? Gopal Satish Kumar, sir? Yeah, sir, you can speak now, sir. Gopal Satish Kumar, sir. Sir, am I audible? Mr. Gopal Satish Kumar, sir, am I audible? Okay, let's move on to another participant. May I have Shweta, madam? You can ask now.
Sir?
Yes, madam. It's clear now. You can ask, madam.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon,
Sir,
Mr.
what is the role of vitamin D in prevention of COVID-19, sir? Role of vitamin D.
Actually,
Role
the
of
same. It
vitamin D in
will go with the same answer what I have given for other vitamins. Vitamin C, I have given you the answer earlier. All vitamins, especially vitamin D and vitamin C, they are expected to improve the immunity. So once immunity is improved, it can be you can prevent attack of the coronavirus. But the thing is that nothing has been established scientifically. Please remember this point. Nothing has been established. Nothing has been established how it will stop the infection of the virus. There is no proof of that. So it's only saying, some will say that you take vitamin D, vitamin A. It's only like, even Aish is telling to take a combination of spices to improve the immunity. It's only a preventive purpose. Maybe it will have some extent. As for Ayurveda, system of Ayurveda and other traditional medicines, they will say that using food as medicine. Keeping that in mind, we can take like vitamin D supplements, or you should be in the sunny for some time to prevent it, not for cure. There is no mechanism, proven mechanism available in the literature. Thank you.
Sir, am I allowed to take couple of questions? Shall I take 2 more questions, sir? Okay. Let's take a question from Dr. Sucharita. Dr. Sucharita, madam.
Hello.
You can talk. Yes, madam. We are audible, madam.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Dr. Sucharita, madam.
Yeah. It was a very nice session, sir, and thank you for presenting in a much needed area of research in the pharmaceutical sciences, because now it's time for everybody to switch our research to the AI as well as deep learning and the bioinformatic tools, etc. And we have to develop much more formulations in the pharmaceutical sciences.
Yes,
Thanks a lot for giving your insights. And here is my question, sir. And the first one is how to identify the target sites in the 3D structure of the protein when you download it from the PDB bank. And is it possible to identify the bonding between the ligand and protein? Like it's irreversible bonding or irreversible bonding, or it may be causing any toxicity. So all this information can be able to find out in silico model.
Yes, madam. You can identify that. As I said, there are tools in the molecular docking studies. There are. I said you that. 1 second. I'll go through that. There are 3 steps. What I said, that are involved in the identification of the exact molecules are bonding at the atomic level. Also, you can identify by the energy, free energy. It is called as binding free energy. In the molecular docking studies, you can find out the binding free energy. So that will tell you that how far. For example, you have tested. You have taken a protein. For example, you have taken AS2. Okay. So for AS2, how many drugs can be bound to the AS2? For example, you have tested with 100 drugs using molecular docking studies. So the result will give like this. So you will find that a list of free energy that is available for each of the drug. So it will do ranking. Which drug is best suited? Which one is having better binding? Whether it is rigid or flexible, that has to be identified. So employing this AI software, you can identify this, or manually also by our theoretical knowledge, by looking at the results, we can find out which molecule is best suited for binding of protein, target protein, we can say. And there are other steps like scoring functions and molecular dynamic simulation. This will help you in identifying the exact molecule that will fit properly onto the target protein for whatever action, pharmacological action, we could say, agonist or antagonistic action. Is it audible, madam?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Let's take another question from Mr. Partha Sarathi.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Dr. Partha Sarathi.
Yes, sir. You can speak.
సార్ నాకు ఒక డౌట్ వచ్చింది. మనము ఏసీ రిసెప్టార్ మీద బైండింగ్ అయినప్పుడు నేను రిఫర్ చేసిన దాంట్లో ఏసీ రిసెప్టార్ మేజర్ బైండింగ్ సైట్ అన్నారు. అలాంటప్పుడు మనం ఏసీ ఇన్హిబిటర్స్ ఇచ్చిన తర్వాత అది మనకి ఏదైనా ఒక వైరస్ కానీ ఏమైనా బాడీలో ఎంటర్ కావాలంటే ఒక ట్రాన్స్పోర్టర్ కావాలి సార్. ఆ ట్రాన్స్పోర్టర్ మన బ్లడ్ కదా సార్. అలాంటప్పుడు మనము ఏసీ ఇన్హిబిటర్స్ ఇచ్చినప్పుడు అది ఫ్రీగా బ్లడ్ లో కలిసిపోయినప్పుడు మనము ఇమ్యూన్ బూస్టర్స్ ఇస్తాం కదా సార్. ఇమ్యూన్ బూస్టర్స్ ఇచ్చిన తర్వాత అవి యాక్షన్ చూపించి COVID-19 ని తగ్గించే ఛాన్సెస్ ఉన్నాయి కదా సార్.
Actually, I will tell in English. The question is that once the virus is attacked and it will enter the blood, so if you give any immune boosters, will it act on the virus or not? That's your question, right? Hello, is it your question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Is this question, sir? His mic is under mute.
So what I would say that yes, there is a possibility, but immunity, it depends on the viral load also. For example, let us give an example in this way. Let us say 100 viral molecules, the viruses, for example, 100 viruses enter the body, and they have replicated into 1 lakh, for example. Then the response of the body, the immune response, it all depends. In some patients, the immune response is very faster. In some patients, the immune response is very slower. So if there are 100 molecules entered and your immune response is only less than 100, it cannot compete or fight with the virus. So at least you have to come out with at least 1000 immune response cells leukocytes or whatever, so that they will attack on the virus, which is not the case. What is going on now? The problem is that the viral load, if the viral load is very high, then you cannot stop multiplication of them. And moreover, it is mimicking, the virus is showing to mimic the cells, IgG cells. So what they are doing is they're not the cells are not able to attack. This is a problem is going on now. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
You cannot use some immunity boosters at that point of time to kill the viruses, because the body is already degraded, so it is very difficult. So only thing is that you can do preventive measure only. Now you have to do treatment, and for that purpose you can see that antibodies are being given from external source. Interferons and other antibodies. You might have seen in the news that some people are giving the serum. COVID patients, those who come out of the hospitals relieved from the disease, they are donating the plasma. The plasma contains a lot of antibodies, and here the problem again is the same. The antibodies, they should be much higher than the antigens or the viruses that are present in our body. Okay, otherwise it will not effective. It is not effective. So you might have seen in the news that recently the people who have been treated with the antibodies also being attacked again, because the antibodies, they are titrated already with the existing viruses. Even if 1 or 2 viruses is remaining in the body, it is starting replicating. This is a problem. Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir. Let's take last question from Mr. Raju. Sir, are you able to hear me, Mr. Raju? Shivashankar sir, kindly try to unmute his. Yeah.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Good afternoon. Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Dr. Raju.
Sir, a very nice session, sir. Good afternoon, sir. SRE CP College of Pharmacy and Prasad, sir. Very good afternoon, sir.
Yes, yes. What's your
sir,
question?
I have a small doubt, sir. Regarding, I already the patients who are already on ACE2 inhibitors for their HTN, is there a chance that they are less prone to corona, sir? Hello,
it
sir.
all depends on the it all depends on the other diseases if he is having. See, the patients who are already taking ACE2 inhibitors are hypertensive patients, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
They may be having, they are also maybe having other comorbidity diseases like what is that, hyperglycemia and hyperlipidemia, edema. That means those patients who are already taking these anti-hypertensive drugs will be above 45 years of age, right? 45 years above people are taking these drugs. 90% of the people, I could say that. So there is a minimal chance that it could be affected, but there are other issues which has to be addressed, because it all depends, it all depends on the present state of the patient. If the patient is healthy, a healthy patient is having more immunity, obviously, so he cannot be affected. Even a healthy patient may be affected, but the symptoms are not seen. Symptoms are not seen. It is because of his immunity. Okay. Yes, there is a chance that the people who are taking ACE2 inhibitors are having lesser chances of getting, but it all depends on the other diseases what he has. Yeah. Am I able to answer?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you, sir. Let us take a last question from. I'm sorry, sir. I'm extending the time. If you don't mind, can I extend one more question?
Please, please, please. No problem.
A last question from Vail Raj, Mr. Vail Raj.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Good afternoon, sir.
Yes,
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Velraj.
Yes.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful presentation. Is there any natural products available to target on the spike proteins?
There are no natural products are available at this moment.
Okay.
But only preventive, what as per our government of India is suggesting by Ayush Ministry, only preventive measures are there.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Right, sir. Thank you so much for this wonderful session, sir. We have
Rishak, I want to add, Mr. Rishak.
Please, sir.
Yeah. Thank you all participants who are professors, teachers, and mostly I found the students are very much interested. They are young fire. So what I suggest all of you is, irrespective of your specialization, whether you belong to pharmaceutics, analysis, natural products, or chemistry, pharmacology, I suggest you to take up this challenge of drug repurposing by collaborating with your friends and having novel ideas and identify the molecules for the existing drugs, especially this orphan diseases. Of course, you may not be able to, everyone cannot be able to work on COVID disease because of laboratory facilities in our colleges. So there are so many other diseases like TB is there, malaria is there, where you can do drug repurposing by using free software that is available in the internet. Try to learn the software. Docking studies, Autodoc is there, which is very much free. You can just download it and learn something. It's not difficult also. If you have inquisitiveness, enthusiasm, you can just go through that and you can do miracles, I say. So this is my final suggestion to everyone, from teachers to students. Please do research and widen the knowledge base of India and make India proud of you in future. Thank you.
And still a few more hands were rising.
No problem. If you have time, no problem.
Yes, sir. Actually, the problem here is we are running out of time. That's why I was supposed to close this.
We can.
Thank you so much for your response.
And you suggest them to download from the website this document.
Yes, sir. Please, sir. Because the audience have gone through your PPT. In the last slide, you have kept the reference also. I hope the audience may have a downloading option in the website of that particular.
You have to type the title in the slide share. It will come.
Yes, sir. I will. The speakers are listening. Audience are listening, sir. So, thank you so much, sir. Am I allowed to take last question from
yes,
Balasubramaniam?
Yes.
Yes, good afternoon.
Balasubramaniam, sir, your mic is open now.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Dr. Balasubramaniam.
Sir, your session is very wonderful, more informative.
Thank you, sir.
So I have a general question. What is the main complication? Because we know all the virus structure, we know that this is one type of same, the coronavirus category. Then everything, these spikes, we know that you said that the ACE, the receptors, and what is the main problem, sir, for this drug discovery? So because plenty of ways are there. If you use the remdesivir, or if you go for ritonavir, or in the ACE blocker, where this main critical problem is there, then why not we solve? We are not unable to solve this problem. So many ways are there. The pathways are there. Already we have even we know that this MERS virus also. So where is the main problem, sir, for this drug discovery? Are you hearing, sir?
Yes. As you rightly said, the main problem is entry level.
Hello. Prakash, sir? Sir, we could not hear you, sir.
Yeah, that is why
I'm sorry. It seems that speaker his internet connection got disconnected.
Now it is okay, sir.
Sir, Prakash sir.
Can I answer?
Yes sir. Yes sir. Please sir.
I'm sorry, due to this network problem, this happened. As he rightly said, entry point is mostly important because we have to prevent the virus to enter the cells. So I suggest the researchers or those who are working on the anti-COVID therapies. So you can focus mainly on ACE receptor and TMP RSS also. So that would be the best solution because if you can prevent it, you can easily handle the things. Even we are working on some docking studies. We started working on docking studies of a natural material that is expected to prevent the ACE. So hopefully we will go into that with the success in the coming days. So I'm really happy to share this information.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, this is the session for today. We are very, very happy to have you a huge e-crowd or e-gathering in these sessions. Thank you so much for all the audience who has spared your time in this lockdown and Sunday as well. So let me just have the things like, sir, we have conducted this session for 3 days. The day 1 was engaged by Dr. Gopal sir from Pondicherry, and day 2 was engaged by Dr. Subramaniam Deshan sir from Tirchi, and day 3 it was you, Dr. Prakash Katakam sir from Nanded, Maharashtra. And we have a huge gathering of approximately more than 500 people every day, and it was almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Still the participants are online and listening to you, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable time with us, spending your valuable time and giving your valuable lectures, sir. I thank our management of Shantaram College of Pharmacy on my behalf and on behalf of my principal, Dr. C. Madhusudan Chettigaru. I thank Dr. Madhusudan Chettigaru also for giving me a free hand to conduct this beautiful sessions for 3 days. Thank you so much, sir. I thank the wonderful speakers we have. Day 1 of Gopal sir, day 2 of Subramaniam Deshan sir, and day 3 Prakash sir. Thank you so much. And I thank our team of Dr. Shivashankar Reddy sir, Dr. M. Srinivasu sir, Dr. Dastagiri, Dr. Yugandhar sir, Satish, and all my crew members. And I also thank all the beautiful participants who have been with us for the 3 long session of 3 long days. Thank you so much, one and all, for sharing your love, for sharing your support. I also thank Jio and internet providers also, because a lot of us, we are using Jio as our internet providers and other internet providers also. So with this thing, let me request Dr. Dastagiri Reddy to propose his formal vote of thanks and closing remarks. Dr. Dastagiri sir.
Sir, he is muted.
I'm trying to unmute him.
Yes. Same is the problem with me.
So I think there is a problem with the session in charge. So this is the thing. So thank you so much, one and all. Thank you so much once again for all the participants, speakers, my management, and thank you very, very much for my principal, Dr. C. Madhusudan Chettigaru, who has given a wonderful chance for us to conduct this e-webinar series. So that's all for today. Thank you so much, and I